The man threw it right there to Jordan Hancock. She's talking about working with some second teamers. Second teamers is not throwing the football. Shedeur Sanders, play of the day, hooking up with Malachi Kelly on the 50-yard.
You are not ready for this one. Two quarterbacks, one joint practice against the Buffalo Bills, and by the time it was over, there was only one guy left standing. Shedeur Sanders went out there and cooked, and Deshaun Watson walked away with another interception attached to his name. I broke down every single rep so you don't have to, and by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this quarterback competition just got a whole lot louder. Let's set the scene first. This was the joint practice between the Browns and the Bills, the last real look before Saturday's preseason game. Everybody wanted to see the same matchup, Shedeur against Watson, head-to-head, no excuses.
Today is the day we get a chance to get a very good look at Shedeur Sanders versus Deshaun Watson. Shedeur Sanders had a very good day against the Buffalo Bills.
So who actually won the day? Let's get into it. Before the pads even came out, Bills head coach Joe Brady said he had not decided who was starting Saturday. That is important because it tells you this competition is still very much alive, and it means every single rep at this practice mattered.
G. Bush is back at it again. We are at Browns training camp, Browns versus the Bills. I made sure that I came out here today because I wanted to make sure that I could see what I want to see. The quarterback competition is still going on. You know, Shedeur Sanders may not play with the ones. Shedeur Sanders may not play with a lot of people, or the Browns may not have ones out there for the Bills or the Browns coming on Saturday. So I wanted to see, is this going to be one of the only opportunities that we may get a chance to see what's going on with. I'm encouraged to see what I saw on film from Shedeur Sanders. I want to see him continue to put some practices together and go out here and take full advantage of the opportunity of playing against another team. I know a lot of people talk about, the quarterback competition is over. Believe me, trust and believe, he will get an opportunity to play. It's all about when. He has the elite playmaking ability. He has the ability to push the ball downfield. Deshaun Watson has not shown.
Hold on, because the reps themselves tell a story. Watson got the first crack with the ones, and to be fair, the split looked even early. Watson actually took more throws than Shedeur in that first 11-on-11 session, but here's the thing people are skipping over. Watson finally started pushing the ball downfield, something he had not really shown all offseason. A Browns reporter said a Bills defender straight up called it check down city before that, so when Watson finally let one rip, it skewed out. Shedeur, meanwhile, had a play where nobody was open, so he tucked the ball and took what the defense gave him. Because remember, nobody is allowed to actually touch these quarterbacks in this setting. Then there was a dropped ball on a fullback that was not on Shedeur at all. A lot of these early reps were run plays too, and if you've been watching this competition, you know the frustration. Give the guy some passes, let him actually throw the football. That is when you see who he really is.
All right, so today is the day. As you guys can see, Bills, Joe Brady, head coach, stated that he still has no decisions on which starters will play in their preseason game against the Cleveland Browns. You guys know this is very important information because this tells us if Shedeur Sanders would have a lot of the ones in this preseason game. All right, so as we take a deep dive in today's joint practice, Deshaun Watson was the first to get all first-team reps, but he did split some with Shedeur Sanders. I can tell you guys from the outside looking in, it looked like the reps was very fair today. Deshaun Watson took more passes than Shedeur did in his first session of 11-on-11, and then after that, man, Shedeur cooked him and he won the day, and you guys going to see why I say that at the end or towards the end of this video. So Deshaun Watson did make some attempts downfield. This was something we've been wanting to see when we start talking about competing with Shedeur Sanders. We saw where Shedeur has stretched the ball downfield, and Deshaun Watson was one of the QBs that has not done so. And so he had one pass play, and this one right here where he threw it a little bit deep. You know what I'm saying? And so Browns reporter stated that he overheard from a Bills defender that this S check down city. So, I mean, I guess after they start hearing that, they allowed Deshaun Watson to throw it downfield. All right, so as we get to Shedeur Sanders, roll out, sprint right. No one was open, so he just tucked it and just took what he can get. You guys know the defenders cannot touch the quarterback, so that play was just what it was. This play right here was just simply dropped by that fullback.
Now, rewind to the numbers because the QB tracker doesn't lie. Here's exactly how the reps broke down in that first session. Watson went all 6 of his snaps with the ones. Shedeur also got 6 snaps, 4 with the ones and 2 with the twos. Dillon Gabriel got 3 snaps with the threes, and Taylon Green picked up the final 2. So on paper, close to even, but paper doesn't throw touchdowns. What happens next does.
Per the QB tracker, the breakdown from the QB reps in the first session was as Deshaun Watson went all 6 snaps with the first team. Shedeur Sanders had 6 snaps, but he went 4 times with the ones and twice with the twos.
This is where Shedeur flipped the entire script. 7-on-7 pad drills started, and Shedeur immediately hooked up with Isaiah Bond on a dig route that got a little chippy after the whistle. Then came the play of the day. Shedeur found Malachi Kelly on a 50-yard touchdown, threading the ball perfectly between 2 defenders on a dig route. Kelly is fighting for one of the last receiver spots on this roster, and that connection right there might have just saved his camp. This is exactly why it matters that Shedeur has real weapons around him now. When he gets a receiver who can win, he makes them pay.
Shedeur Sanders hooks up with Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond's going to come across the screen on a big dig route, and it got a little chippy after that play right there. Backside, you can see Isaiah Bond comes across, and he makes a nice catch. And this is why it's very important for Shedeur to have these wide receivers, man. Shedeur Sanders, play of the day, hooking up with Malachi Kelly on the 50-yard touchdown, man. Malachi Kelly is trying to make that last few slots as far as wide receiver, and he definitely came big for Shedeur Sanders as he hooked up with him on a nice dig route, and he scored right there, man. Get in the end zone.
And it didn't stop there. On a free play situation, Shedeur showed the kind of recognition that gets talked about at the next level. When a quarterback gets a free play off a defensive penalty, the smart move is to throw it up for grabs because either you get the completion or you get a pass interference call in your favor. Overthrowing it gives you nothing. Shedeur understood that perfectly and put the ball where only his guy could win it. There is a narrative out there from certain media members claiming Shedeur does not have a high football IQ. This play alone says otherwise. He saw the defense slipping, snapped the ball fast, and cashed in.
Take it up top. There it is. Wallace down the court. Oh, by Isaiah Bond on just a little under.
And got the PI.
Yeah. That's the beauty of that. We're going to get the
Dr.
PI.
J-Zo bouncing around,
We're
jacked
going to
up.
get the PI there. That's a 30-yarder.
Walker.
That is great recognition by Shedeur Sanders of the situation there. And I don't mind that because on an overthrow situation on a free play, you don't have the benefit of that. That ball's got to be put on him or underthrown. It's almost as if he's wide open because that gives you the chance for a completion or the PI. Overthrown gives you nothing. Great job. Great recognition by Shedeur Sanders.
Here's the play right here that Nathan Segura is talking about. They say Shedeur Sanders doesn't have very good high football IQ. Think again, man. He took a very good shot right there.
Compare that recognition to what happened on the other side of the ball. Shedeur kept it rolling with a completion to Denzel Boston on a 3rd and long, moving the chains again. Then the second 11-on-11 session started, and things got shaky fast for Watson, who was working exclusively with the ones this time. Shedeur was splitting reps between the ones and twos, while Gabriel and Green mopped up the rest. This is the session where the wheels really came off for Watson.
Right here, he hooked up with Denzel Boston. This was more of a 4th down situation with 3rd down and long, and he capitalized on that with Denzel Boston. Second 11-on-11 sessions looked very shaky for Deshaun Watson as he was getting all his work with the ones.
Here is the reality check nobody wants to talk about. A Browns reporter tried to soften this by saying Watson was picked off in the red zone while working with secondary teamers. That is not accurate. Watson threw the ball directly to Bills safety Jordan Hancock. No excuse needed, no secondary teamers to blame. Multiple reporters confirmed the same sequence independently. One outlet said Watson overthrew a wide-open Harold Fannin on the goal line, then the very next play was a jet sweep for a loss, and the play after that was the interception to Hancock. Another reporter called it a bad stretch in the red zone, describing a sailed pass to a wide-open Fannin, followed a couple plays later by the pick over the middle. When multiple independent reporters describe the exact same sequence, you know it is accurate. This was not one bad play. This was a bad stretch.
Shedeur Sanders was splitting ones and twos, and Dylan Gabriel and Green got the rest of those reps. So as you guys can see, Browns reporter Mary Kay Cabot reported Deshaun Watson was picked off in the red zone working with secondary teamers by Bill Jordan Hancock. I like how she tried to throw that in there. The man threw it right there to Jordan Hancock. She's talking about working with some second teamers. Second teamers is not throwing the football. Deshaun Watson literally threw the ball right there to safety Jordan Hancock, man. No excuses. I see that these people love to try to make excuses for Deshaun Watson, but we ain't doing that over here. Look at it again. He clearly threw it right there in the hands of Jordan Hancock. Ball wasn't even touched. Shout out to G. Bush out there, man. When he saw that, he says Deshaun Watson overthrows Harry Fannin wide open in the corner on the goal line. Next play, jet sweep for a loss. Next play, DB just up and picks him off in the red zone. Not pretty at all.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what did Shedeur do to answer that? Shedeur got his shot at a 2-minute drill and drove Cleveland all the way down the length of the field before getting sacked with no timeouts left. His final pass to Denzel Boston fell incomplete on a tightly contested ball in the red zone. Now here is the part that matters. Boston actually had that arm held by the defender, and if you go back and watch, you can see exactly why he had to go up with one hand instead of two. It was a really good defensive play, the kind where the referee just does not see it, so it stands as a completion for the defense either way. Still, that entire 2-minute drive was a great look at what Shedeur can do when the game is on the line and everybody in the building knows it.
I just showed you guys that. Browns reporter Daniel Oyefuzi also stated bad stretch for Deshaun Watson in red zone 11 on 11. Sailed a pass to a wide open Fannin in the flat. A couple plays later, he is intercepted over the middle by Jordan Hancock. This is very important for me to continually show you guys the different reporters are saying the same thing so you guys know it is accurate. Browns reporter states 2-minute drill. Shedeur Sanders drives Cleveland to the length of the field, but he's sacked with no timeouts left. His last second pass to Denzel Boston fell incomplete. Great effort by Shedeur Sanders to put this team in this position to win the game. And so, he just wanted to give Denzel Boston a chance right here. He's been seeing Denzel Boston all throughout this offseason come down with these 90% of the time. But guess what? I'm not going to give that defender a break, man, because he actually held that left arm. Check right here, guys. Look at that left arm. You see how they fighting down here in this red zone, and then he hooked them right there. And that is why Denzel Boston actually went up with one hand. Me as a receiver, I had to replay it because I'm like, why did he go up with one hand instead of two? And then I saw that right there. Great play by the defender, though, because guess what? If the referee don't call it, referee don't see it, then guess what?
Let's get to the final numbers because they tell the whole story. Per the QB tracker, Shedeur finished 13 of 23 with no touchdowns and no interceptions. Watson went 12 of 17 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Dylan Gabriel was 4 of 7 clean, and Taylon Green went 3 for 3 with a touchdown. Now, on the surface, some will point to Watson's better completion percentage and the touchdown, but protecting the football matters, and Watson has been turning it over all offseason. Browns reporters covering the practice live actually gave Watson credit too, saying he looked sharp and decisive when he got his shots, especially a throw down the seam to Casey Conklin they called one of his best of camp. And they were fair to Shedeur as well, saying his growth from a year ago is night and day, and crediting Todd Monken and the coaching staff for the work Shedeur has put in to take advantage of these reps. Whatever happens with this competition, everyone agrees these reps are building the guy who could be the Browns' quarterback for years to come.
You won that battle, man, so it is what it is. Nevertheless, as we take a look at the QB tracker update, Shedeur Sanders 13 of 23, no TDs, no interceptions. Deshaun Watson 12 of 17, 1 TD, 1 interception. Dylan Gabriel 4 of 7, no TDs, no interceptions. And Dan Green was 3 of 3 and 1 TD. But as we take a look at this QB tracker, I'm here to tell you guys right now, I'm still giving the edge to Shedeur Sanders because he simply protected the football, and Deshaun Watson turned it over, and he's been turning it over all offseason. If you guys been following this channel, you guys been seeing the same thing that I've been seeing. And we'll take a look in here what the Browns reporters, as far as Nathan Segura and them had to say as far as what they saw, and then I'm going to give you guys my final thoughts.
But I would say
Football takeaways, Deshaun Watson had a very nice day. You guys mentioned it. I didn't get to see the whole practice, but when he was in there, he was sharp, he was decisive, and he was pushing the football down the field, which is something that we did not see in the game against the Chicago Bears.
I'd agree. I know it's bad radio, Huff, but I agree. I mean, I thought Deshaun Watson, that red zone interception was not great. The one to Fannin, that has to be a touchdown, whether that's him, whether that's Fannin, whether it's a combination of both, that's got to be a touchdown. But I thought early on the first two couple of periods were some of the best that I've seen him, really first three periods that I've seen him here with the Browns. And hopefully there's confidence from that. The ball down the seam to Casey Concepcion was as good of a throw as he has made. Shedeur Sanders made some very nice throws. And his progress from a year ago is night and day. It really is. And you got to give a lot of credit to Todd Monken and Mike Bajakian and this staff because, and to Shedeur Sanders for the work that he has put in to be able to capitalize on these opportunities and these reps. And I think we'll look back at, no matter what the outcome of this quarterback competition, that the fact that it happened is so good for the development of Shedeur Sanders and the quarterback that he has a chance to be not only in 2026 but beyond for the Cleveland Browns, because he got so many valuable reps and he has improved.
So where does that leave us heading into Saturday? Let's slow down for a second and walk all the way back through everything that actually happened at this joint practice, start to finish. Because when you line it all up side by side, the picture gets a lot clearer. It started with Joe Brady saying he had no decision on Saturday's starters, which told you right away this competition is still wide open, no matter what anybody wants to claim on social media. Then the reps kicked off, and early on, it looked close. Watson actually got more throws than Shedeur in that first session, and give him credit, he pushed the ball downfield for maybe the first time all offseason after getting labeled check down city by his own locker room. That is a real step forward for him, and I am not going to sit here and pretend it did not happen. But then the pad drill started, and this is where the day tilted hard toward Shedeur. He found Isaiah Bond on a chippy dig route, and then he uncorked that 50-yard touchdown to Malachi Kelly, dropping the ball perfectly between two defenders on a route that most quarterbacks would have sailed. Kelly is fighting for a roster spot right now, and Shedeur just gave him a highlight that coaches are not going to forget when final cuts come around. Then came the free play. Remember that one? The defense jumped offside. Shedeur recognized it instantly, and instead of overthrowing it for nothing, he put the ball up where only his guy could make a play. That is not luck. That is the kind of football IQ that certain media members keep claiming he does not have, and the tape says otherwise every single time. Now flip over to Watson's side of that same session. The second 11-on-11 period is where things really came apart. Watson was working exclusively with the ones, no excuses left, and that is when he threw the interception straight to Bills safety Jordan Hancock in the red zone. Not a tipped ball, not a miscommunication with a backup receiver, a ball thrown directly into the hands of the opposing defense. And it was not an isolated mistake either. One reporter said he overthrew Harold Fannin on the goal line the play before, then Cleveland ran a jet sweep for a loss, and then came the pick. Another reporter, working completely independently, described that exact same stretch almost word for word. When you get two separate sources confirming the same sequence without talking to each other, that tells you it is not a stretch or an exaggeration. That is simply what happened on the field. And then Shedeur answered one more time. 2-minute drill, no timeouts, driving the offense the length of the field under real pressure, the closest thing to game speed you're going to get in a joint practice. He got sacked at the end, and the final throw to Denzel Boston fell incomplete. But go back and watch that clip closely. The defender had Boston's arm the entire way down the field. That's why Boston had to fight up with one hand instead of two. It was a genuinely good defensive rep, the kind that doesn't get flagged because the referee simply doesn't see it from that angle. Shedeur still put his team in position to win the game against a real NFL defense, and that matters more than the incompletion at the end of it. When you tally up the actual numbers, Shedeur finished 13 of 23 with 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Watson went 12 of 17 with a touchdown and a pick. Dylan Gabriel quietly went 4 of 7 clean, no mistakes, and Taylon Green went a perfect 3 for 3 with a touchdown of his own, which tells you this quarterback room has more depth than people want to give Cleveland credit for. On paper, some people are going to point at Watson's completion rate and call it a win for him, but protecting the football is not a small detail in this conversation. It's been the exact same issue with Watson all offseason, and it showed up again on the biggest stage of this joint practice, in the red zone against a real opponent, with the entire building watching. Even the Browns reporters covering this live gave credit where it was due on both sides. They praised Watson's sharper reads early, specifically pointing to that seam throw to Casey Conklin as one of the better balls he's thrown all camp, and they were just as honest about Shedeur, saying his growth from a year ago is night and day, and putting real credit on Todd Monken and the coaching staff for building an offense that lets him take advantage of these reps. Both things can be true at once. Watson flashed, Shedeur delivered, but only one of them turned the football over when it counted, in the exact spot on the field where turnovers hurt the most. And that's really the story of this entire quarterback competition when you strip away the noise. It's not that Watson looked bad every single rep, because he didn't. It's not that Shedeur was perfect either, because he had his share of throwaways and checkdowns just like anybody else working through a joint practice. What it comes down to is who you can trust with the football when the lights get brighter. And right now, rep after rep, practice after practice, that answer keeps trending in one direction. So let's bring this all the way home one more time before we wrap this up, because a joint practice like this one doesn't get talked about enough, and it deserves the full breakdown. This was supposed to be one of the clearest looks at Shedeur Sanders against Deshaun Watson that we were going to get before Saturday, and it delivered exactly that. Watson opened the day by finally pushing the ball downfield, answering some of the check-down criticism that has followed him around, and for a few reps it looked like he might actually separate himself. Then Shedeur took over. The touchdown to Malachi Kelly, the free play recognition that shut down the football IQ narrative for good, the third down conversion to Denzel Boston, and then when Watson had every opportunity to seal the day working exclusively with the starters, he threw it straight to Jordan Hancock in the red zone, a mistake confirmed independently by more than one reporter on the ground. Shedeur closed the day out with a real 2-minute drill, driving the length of the field before finally running out of time, showing exactly the kind of composure you want from a guy trying to win a starting job. Add it all up, and the numbers back up with the tape already showed you. Shedeur protected the football completely, 0 picks, while making the plays that actually move the needle. Watson had his moments, real ones, but he also handed the ball right back to the defense at the worst possible time, and he did it in the one part of the field where you absolutely cannot afford it. Dylan Gabriel and Taylon Green both did their part too, staying clean whenever their number was called, which just adds more pressure on the two guys at the top of this depth chart to actually separate themselves. And this isn't even the final chapter. There's still one more preseason game left this Saturday against these same Buffalo Bills, with the job still technically undecided according to the Bills' own coaching staff, and more importantly, still undecided according to the Browns' own coaching staff too. If Shedeur goes out there one more time and does what he's been doing all camp, protecting the football, making the eye-opening throws, delivering in the 2-minute drill, the pressure on this front office to make a real decision is only going to get louder with every single rep. Fans are already talking about it, reporters are already talking about it, and every practice like this one just adds more fuel to that fire. If Cleveland does decide to stick with Watson no matter what happens Saturday, that's their call to make, but history has not been kind to that plan so far. The turnovers have followed him through this entire offseason, joint practice after joint practice, and there's no reason to believe they won't keep coming.